Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get too far in, if you want to help support the channel and you enjoy the content, if you hit the like button before you leave, that really helps out a lot. Also, leaving comments or suggestions are totally okay, so I appreciate that kind of input as well, so thank you for that. Today I'm going to make something that's kind of a modern take on sort of a Edwardian kind of a drop necklace where it's got multiple components connected by little jump rings and stuff. And I'm going to use some amethysts. These were provided by one of my patrons over on Patreon. Bobby, thank you again for all the cool stones. And I think it'll be a pretty necklace, so I'm going to give this a shot. I think there's 5 stones in it, so it's going to be kind of a lot of bezels. One of them I'm going to do is a prong setting, so this will probably be an advanced project. But before we get started, I wanted to thank all my YouTube subscribers. You guys are awesome. We passed 7,100 recently, and I can't believe that. It kind of blows me away. Thanks for all the support. And also, my patrons over on Patreon, and I have a new one. Sandy D signed up for my Silver Supporter tier. I'm guessing because watching my channel with all the commercials can get sort of annoying. So that's the level where it's $5 a month and you get rid of all the commercials. So if you're interested in that, check it out. Thank you, Sandy, and thank you all my other patrons for being that cool community over there. I really appreciate it. All right, let's get started on this. Okay, I'll show you what I drew up, and I'll show you the stones that I have. This is my design idea book. You can see a lot of the things I've made in the recent past in this one. I started sketching out pretty much everything I'm going to make for the channel, but I tend to get a better result when I do that. So if you're interested in one of these, they're on my merch store if you check the video description. So this is what I drew up. I made kind of a cool multi-stone piece with blue topaz and moonstone and some mother of pearl, I think it was, with some multiple links connected to a split chain up here, and it came together kind of like this. I have a video, you can check it out if you want to. This is going to be sort of similar, but a little bit more old-fashioned-y looking, I think. I've got a number of amethysts here. I have this briolette here that I'm going to have to glue a silver loop into in order to attach it. That's the one thing that we'll need to use a little glue for. I have these, show it to you front side up so you can see what it looks like. Hopefully not shoot it across the table, but these really pretty little amethyst pear shapes, and let's see how big those are. 8 by 12s, I think, little pear shapes. Those are going to go up here, like that. And I have a central oval one here. See, that's going to go right here. And this is going to be the one prong setting thing I'm going to do. And I pre-made this little silver chunk here, and I may shorten it a little bit. What I did was I took it was actually 2 pieces of half-round 6 gauge, I think, that I soldered together in order to get a round, thick piece of wire for a different project. And I cut a piece off of that, and I tapered it down to either end. And then I filed some grooves in it because I wanted to have some decorative grooves going up and down. I'm not sure if I did those neatly enough to make it look good, but we'll see. If not, I may change the design on that one a little bit. I have, this is a weird shaped little, it's like half of an oval, or more than like 2/3 of an oval. It's got one flat side. Do one like that. So you'll end up with kind of oopsie, kind of that look, and everything's kind of free swinging. There'll be a jump ring at the bottom of this and at the top of this to connect those. It's going to be a jump ring here and here, and one here and here to connect those together. Same way right here and here, here and here, and then one at the top here. So there's going to be a lot of jump rings attached to settings is basically what it is. So I think this will be the prong one. These two bezel ones I already made, just because this is going to be a time-consuming piece. And then so we'll need to make a bezel for this one and create this prong setting here. So that's basically the bulk of what we're going to be doing here. That's my plan. I have some chain. I made a little split chain. I had a spare one of these lobster claws laying around, and I have this spool of this chain that I got from somebody when I bought their tools, and it's actually a really nice chain. It's really fine, and it's triple linked, interwoven, so it doesn't get tangled too easily. And I ended up putting a jump ring on there and like a lobster claw on there. So we'll use that to suspend this piece. But I think to start with, let's see if we can't make the bezel for that strangely shaped amethyst. We'll put these other ones to the side for now. I'm just going to go ahead and use 26 gauge. I was trying to decide whether I should use 28 gauge because it's got some sharp corners here, but I think I can make it work with 26. I prefer the thicker stuff. So let's do that. I think with this one, I'm going to make the solder joint in the top of the flat side here. So in order to do that, I kind of make a sharp bend vertically in the bezel wire so I can get the bezel started. This. Then it should be easier to wrap it around there. Especially if we pre-shape it a little bit like that. The trick is figuring out exactly where to bend it to get that second sharp corner so that it fits in there pretty snugly. I think that looks pretty good. Guess we'll find out for sure. Give it a little quick file to flatten the edge. If you've never watched one of my videos before, I use hard silver solder in sheet form for virtually everything, and a spray-on flux called My-T-Flux. Just going to put a little square of solder there. We got it pretty close on that one. The way that I create a step for faceted stones to sit on a bezel is I use a couple of jump rings made out of 18 gauge wire. In this case it'll be a 18 gauge wire shaped into that same shape, and I'll stack two of those one on top of the other. If you want to get a sharp corner in wire, one thing you can do is you can take the corner of your bastard file and file a notch that's part of the way through the wire. So, the more I think about it, the easier way to get this to line up nicely where both notches are in the right spot would be, let's do it this way. Cut it a little bit further in so I have enough to get down to the middle, and we'll have the two ends joined down on the curved spot down here. That way it'll be easier to get those to line up. We'll use that as this corner here. I'm going to do it right even with the bezel itself. Okay, so let's file a notch right there. Cut that off. That'll allow us to make a sharper bend right there. In order to not have those break on me while I'm filling with these other ends, I'm going to go ahead and solder them closed. I'm just going to pick a little bit on each of those corners to reinforce it. If you've never tried pick soldering, I'll put a link to a video up here. I find that that is one of the skills that has made things incredibly easier for me over the years. As far as getting solder where you want it to be and learning how to control the heat well and all those things that are important to being good at soldering where you want it. Probably can take the ends of these, curve them like this. I'm going to overlap them. I get a pretty good feel for where I need to cut it to fit in there. I feel like it's still too big, but I want to cut it a little bit big so that I don't overcut it. So let's kind of playing this one by ear. I've never actually made a bezel for this shape of a stone before, so but this should work. That gives you an idea that we're pretty close here. So I'm going to take just a tiny bit more off of here because I don't know if you can tell in this with this level of filming, but it's riding up over here even though it sits in there nicely. So we need to take a little bit more off of there. And that came up pretty good. I was afraid I may have overcut it, but that fits in nicely. So I'm going to repeat that process. I'm not going to make you watch me do the same thing again. Alright, I have two of those now. So let's put them one on top of the other like this. There's heat from the outside, like I said. I'm just going to take my file and file this flat on the bottom. That looks pretty good. I think 2 rings is enough. I will just file this shorter in order to match it where it's just barely over the girdle of the stone. One thing I do with things with sharp corners like this is once I have that filed to the right level before I set the stone, if you try to compress that corner over the top of that stone, it's going to wrinkle because it's trying to push too much bezel in there. So if you take this is again after I file it down to the right height, thin the corner out just a little bit, kind of like that, so the bezel has less mass to it there in that spot, less bulk I should say. That way it makes it easier to force that down over the stone without having wrinkles and stuff. So, alright, so now put him to the side. We need to make one for this oval stone, but I'm going to do a prong setting for this one. And I think I'm going to use 14 gauge square to create a platform for it to sit on to start with. So let's do that. Or should I use 12? So for this one, I think because I think what I'm going to do, I want a little jaggediness on the sides here to give it a little bit of a something that breaks the smoothness of everything a little bit. And so I think I'll make the base out of 12, these out of 14 gauge round, and I'll just solder them straight up and down. But before we do that, I'll probably solder on these decorative pieces on the edges. And then we'll also be using a diamond burr to kind of taper the inside of the square wire so it has a nice platform for that to slide into. So we're going to make it just slightly bigger than the stone, so there's room to have those prongs mounted on here. Okay, so once I have it pretty close, I'm going to cut it off right there, and then we can take a little more off if we need to. Which I think we probably will. I would still have to go back and fix that in a little bit. Okay, let's solder that, and then we'll try and shape it back into more of an oval, and we'll see how we are on size. I have an oval jump ring mandrel that might help me to get this more oval. Try that and see how that works. It's a slippery stone. I think that'll work just fine. So I think what I'm going to do next, let's do a little bit of filing on this to get it cleaned up. Something else we're going to have to deal with here is the pavilion of this stone is very deep. So what I think I'm going to do is this will be there. For this decorative part that's going to be underneath it, I'm going to create a slightly bigger square that sticks out a little bit. I could use 14. I could use another piece of I think I'm going to use more of the 12 gauge. I was going to use 14, but I think this will work better. It'll give me more to work with. So, did a few things off camera. I created that other ring there that's a little bit bigger. I also shaped this a little better, and I filed a little bit of an angle down in there for that stone to sit in. We'll see. I didn't even check to see how it fits, but that's pretty good. I want it to sit down kind of low. That. If I need to, I can fine-tune how that sits, but that looks pretty good. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sweat some solder onto the back of this, and then position it on top of this, and then just heat it again so it solders down and creates kind of a little step. And then I'm going to carve that into some decorative shape around the outside, and I may use the saw to cut it out, I'm not sure, but we'll see once it's on there, and I'll sketch it out sort of. So a little bit on each quadrant here. Kind of spread out a little bit. Now, Also off camera, took some 14 gauge wire and I soldered it into an X shape like this, and I'm going to use this to make my prongs. So think use this kind of as a gauge about how far out to start bending these downwards. Center that there. Actually, let me use my little marker. Just kind of eyeballing where about where that is. I think let's mark off where I'd like those prongs to be. I'm inclined to solder that on, so let's do that. I think I got any on the base on that one. It's easy to get the wires on this hot, but it's, you know, the other part is bigger and at the bottom, so it's not getting as much heat. So my next step, if you remember, I was gonna add some designs here. So one of the reasons the major reason I did the second level is to elevate that stone so the pavilion didn't stick outside. But I thought I'd kill two birds with one stone, and that would provide me something I can cut away. So I'm going to kind of draw out what I remove here, I think. Let's see if I can do that with my bastard file. So far I like those. Okay. I might put a round thing right in the middle there. If I can get it centered pretty well. I can center that. Okay, so I'm going to use the Dremel in one of those diamond burrs. A little round spot there. A round spot there. Alright, so here's where we're at. I need to still add a ring up here, a ring up here, a vertical ring on either of these, horizontal ring up here and up here on this piece, and then I'm going to have a vertical ring coming off of this one and a horizontal ring coming off of here and here, and then I'll need one vertical one coming off of here. I'll need to add small rings onto the end of this little, whatever you want to call that thing. And then I made this little loopy thing here, which I will go epoxy into this spot right there, so it's a permanent connection. Alright, now it's time to do a whole bunch of jump rings. So I think I'll start with this seed one here. This is closed on the bottom, the one that I soldered closed earlier, so I need this one to be open. So what I can do is I can sweat a little solder on here, and I can take one of these little rings that I made out of 18 gauge and get it fluxed. I just have to grab it so it's, I want the crack here to be sideways, so if I just solder it on like that, so I can leave it open. See if I can do this without dropping that one off. I guess I could just set it on the ground. On the pad, I should say. Chances are it won't go anywhere. I was a little off center. Okay. I think my little pendant necklace is going to be a little bit larger scale than the one I drew, because it like this is a little more bulky than I expected and stuff. So, okay, got that one. Now we need, those ones are both open, so I can put a closed one and two open ones on this thing. Two open ones are on the top, closed ones this way on the bottom. I think that's workable. This will be up here. Alright, so it looks like when I drew it up, I did little half circles, so I could do some half circles. quite a bit of mass difference in these things here, so gotta get this big piece pretty hot. The little rings will get hot pretty easily. Take a peek how everything looks here now. I think I'm not going to solder the last joints closed probably, just because that'll allow you to take it apart if anything also goes wrong with it and you need to repair a single component. So, and I don't foresee this getting jerked so much that it would ever come off. So. Oops. Don't do that. There we go. Don't be troublemaker. That's pretty good, I think. I usually get it right on the dot like that. We'll see if yeah. That looks reasonably straight. Okay, so like I said, I already got the chain set up to go. I've put the only kind of wire I can get through these little tiny links is 20 gauge or smaller, so I put some 20 gauge rings in there that will hook on, and then we'll have it done after it's all polished. And I'll probably show you how to set the prong setting, but if you want to see how to set the bezel set stones, you can go to this video right here. Alright, see you when that's done polishing. I did the easier ones, although quite honestly this one was kind of a pain because of the weird shape, but I got it in. The first one, luckily I had a backup stone because I chipped the first one that I was putting in there, and so I got him in there. But I've got this all ready to be seated. I cleaned it up down here. I filed those a little bit thin down at the bottom so that the stone would have a little bit, those will go right up to the stone there as it sits in here. For these ones, I really start by bending one in over there, making sure the stone is still sitting down. This one wants to move around. Okay, so it's not going to move as much now, I don't think. Start pushing these downwards a little bit. Check periodically to make sure it's sitting, not crooked or something. Offsets first. I'm going to snip the tops off just a little bit more so I don't have them bumping into each other. and gently push them down as far as they'll go. Hopefully without chipping this stone. Once they're down as far as they'll go, then snip them off about the midway down the girdle facets, which are the ones right next to the table facet. Then I'm just going to clean those up with the file and the Dremel so they kind of curve inwards to the top there. And this will be connecting here, and these will be connecting here. And then I will, after I assemble that, I will take a better picture and put it at the end of the video. Well, that was a modern take on an Edwardian sort of drop necklace. I'm not sure what you'd call it, but if you enjoyed the content, make sure to hit the like button before you leave. That really helps out a lot. If you want to help support the channel in other ways, there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. One is check out the video description, because there's 4 different links in there that are important to me. One is a link to my website where you can see jewelry for sale. 2 is a merch store, and you can get some cool stuff like my pickle time wine tumbler for when you're metalsmithing and you need some beverage. Third, you can go to the Buy Me a Coffee link, which is basically a way to tip me and helps me to buy supplies and raw materials. And finally, you can check out the Patreon link. There's all sorts of cool people over on Patreon. I think I learn a lot from them, and I hope they're learning as much from me. But it's a nice place, so you could. That's another way to support the channel. So, thanks for watching. Happy silversmithing. Take care.